Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
Today we're going to be talking about X2, X-Men United. Directed by Bryan Singer, written by Michael Dougherty, Dan Harris, and David Hayter, from a story by Zach Penn, David Hayter, and Bryan Singer. And starring Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman, Ian McKellen, Halle Berry, Famke Janssen, James Marsden, Anna Paquin, Rebecca Rain, Brian Cox, Alan Cumming, and Kelly Hu as Lady Deathstrike.
I'm really glad that you do the intro because I hate saying names, and that's a lot of names.
You're welcome. Before we get started, we just want to thank a couple people who have left a review on iTunes, I guess, under our podcast. The first one is from Crossbox with 3 X's, and the title is Awesome. And he says, "Great podcast, guys. Please do Deadpool, please." Or she. I don't know if this is a guy or a girl. And we will definitely do Deadpool. John has to see it first, but we will definitely do Deadpool. I just purchased it on Blu-ray, so I'm ready to watch it again. And the second one is from TJ Olsen 88, and they titled it Fun Show. "I love superhero movies, and these guys are very fun to listen to. I wasn't a huge fan of Batman vs. Superman, but I also didn't think it was as terrible and does not deserve the hate it's getting." I agree. "I liked that they actually acknowledged that there were some strengths in it. Great show." Thank you, TJ Olsen 88 and Crossbox. And just to throw it out there, somebody else from back in February named Bootheel also gave us a very nice review that said Hungry for More. I can't remember if I've read that one on the air, so if I haven't, I apologize, Bootheel. Let me know. I'll read it next time. But they gave us 5-star reviews, and I think this is very nice of you. And we appreciate the feedback.
Thank you.
We will definitely try to do Deadpool soon. This movie was released in 2003 and was obviously the follow-up to the successful X-Men film. Obviously. I saw this in the theater. I was really excited about it because I loved the first movie. And was an X-Men fan, as a kid. Watched that animated series quite a bunch. And this movie did not disappoint, I would say. I was very impressed with it. I believe I saw it at least twice in the theater. Maybe more than that.
Yeah, I'm about the same. I saw it at least twice. The cool thing about this movie is that comic book movies were still trying to figure out where they were going. Mm-hmm. All we had at this point was Spider-Man and X-Men.
Yep. Well, if you don't count the Blade movies, yeah.
Right. I didn't see those until... Actually, I didn't see Blade until we... Did we do a
podcast on it? Yeah, we did it. Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking we had. I remember watching it. That was the first time I had seen any Blade movie. I take that back. Wow. I had seen maybe 30 minutes of that one. But it was long after, so I forget about the Blade movies.
Yeah.
Some people do you include them in the Marvel beginning superheroes?
I should, but I don't really. And I think it's partially because they are R-rated films perhaps. They're more of for adult audiences. Yeah,
I kind of always looked at them more like capitalizing off the Matrix style.
Right. And
X-Men came out, it was like you had never seen your comic book heroes presented like this before.
Right. Blade, I did have to say, I think the first Blade came out in 98, right? So it was technically before Matrix.
Oh, you're right. That's right. I think we talked about that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it also doesn't
Sorry about
feel
that,
like it is a Marvel property, and I understand that,
yeah.
But it doesn't feel like a superhero film. It's more of a vampire,
yeah, exactly,
kind of horror/action film.
Right.
So that's another reason why I don't really include it, I guess, in the Marvel, or in my definition of the Marvel movies. But it is definitely a Marvel movie.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, this was we still hadn't gotten a taste for what, there was that hope. We saw X-Men and Spider-Man, which we were like, okay, these are going in a good direction. X2, to me, when I saw it in the theater, the first scene with Nightcrawler, I was like, what is going to happen with the superhero movies now? This is ridiculous. I mean, the direction they're taking this now is they are serious about this.
Yeah.
And they are treating us very nicely. I appreciate what I'm seeing on the screen. And I cannot, and we've been watching this for 2 minutes now. Thank you. And what is coming?
The opening Nightcrawler scene, I was a fan of Nightcrawler as a kid, and I remember having a comic book where he was kind of one of the main, that was like one of the main focuses of the comic was Nightcrawler. And just seeing the word, BAMF, every time he teleported. And seeing him teleport in live action in this film was like everything I wanted from Nightcrawler, basically. That opening scene, I still love it. I feel like the effects
absolutely
are still pretty good today. They're not perfect, but they're...
That scene passes because it's mainly just fog and stuff.
Right. And so,
it's still so fun to watch, which kind of shocks me, but it's so well done. At the same time, it doesn't. But it's still really cool because it holds up. It's when that scene comes on, you don't. If there's other people in the room, you don't talk to them. You just watch the scene.
You're too busy. Yeah, you're too busy just staring at the screen because of how great it is. Yeah.
And for the most part, I felt like a lot of X2 was like that. With all the superhero movies that have come out at this point, rewatching it, I don't know if I could say that it's as... It holds up. It holds up really well. But I don't know. I think that my memory of it was giving it a little bit more credit compared to what's coming out today.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. But X2 is still... I enjoyed watching the whole thing.
Yeah. It used to be up there with, like, best comic book movie... it used to be like up there with Spider-Man 2 as like one of the best comic book movies ever made. And I agree with you. It's like now that these other really good comic book movies are coming out, is it still at the top of the list or is it getting bumped down a little bit?
That's exactly what I was kind of talking about. I feel like it might have come down just a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's not saying much at all because it was very little and the movie was so high to begin with.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your favorite scenes from this movie?
Well, that
besides
Nightcrawler scene,
the first one,
obviously.
Yeah.
One of my other favorite scenes is another one that involves Nightcrawler, and it's the one where the jet has been shot at, or that has been hit with a missile, really, and the back gets blown out, and Rogue gets sucked out of the back, and she's like falling through the air, and then Nightcrawler just shows up. I remember in the theater, and it's almost like I wish I could experience this movie for the first time again in a theater because I remember the feeling I had when that happened. Like, for whatever reason, I didn't even think about Nightcrawler being able to save her, and so when she was falling,
me neither.
I think in my brain I was like, is she going to fly? I think that was my first thought. Like, I thought maybe they were going to incorporate Rogue's flying.
Yeah,
into that
I bet I probably did too, and I'm sure most people did.
And then suddenly Nightcrawler just appears and grabs her, and then teleports her back to the plane, and I remember being like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I
remember my reaction was, of course. Why wasn't I thinking about that? Yes.
Yeah. So that's another one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
And then of course, I think I don't know how I would rank them, this scene or the Nightcrawler scene, but the Wolverine scene in the mansion where he's just going like doing his raging Wolverine
ballistic
berserker or whatever you want to call it, just tearing those guys apart. Like, that scene's really well done too.
Yeah, I remember in the theater when that happened, everyone just was like, that first time he takes the claws and puts them in the guy's chest, everyone's just like, oh, like they've done it. There's no going back, and he's mad.
What's a shame is that now that we've had eight different X-Men movies, including Wolverine and
it doesn't
X-Men
feel
Origins
like
Wolverine.
it, but that's probably because I don't count all of them.
Right, sure. But the thing is, it's like the audience doesn't have that reaction anymore when they see Wolverine doing that.
But at that,
because it's like we're so used to it now.
Right. This was the movie where that happened. It was jaw-dropping, and they were taking comic books in a different direction.
Yeah.
It wasn't like gory or anything, but
no, and there's really no blood in that scene either. But it's
someone on the screen intentionally, which I give him credit for, because the guy's got a knife and is trying to stick it down his throat to begin with. I'm like, dude, these knives are going in you because I've got you up against the wall.
Right. And I love how
you weren't going to shave my sideburns with that knife there.
I love how that first guy that he gets at the refrigerator, when that guy falls, you see the 6 holes from the claws in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I think that was a nice touch.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's actually, to Bryan Singer's credit, he kept it very PG-13, I think, and there's no... It's a violent scene, but there's no blood, there's no gore or anything like that, so...
But yeah, like, I can show my kids that and not worry about, are they going to have nightmares and stuff?
Right.
And I don't think movies need to necessarily always have gore, and X-Men, especially the time this was made, and the people it was geared towards, it made sense.
Right.
I think the fact that he killed someone was, shocking enough for the audience.
Killed multiple people.
Yeah.
I actually have the movie on my TV right now on mute, and that's the scene that's playing right now.
Nice. Well, has Colossus come out yet? Because that part's amazing also.
That's another one of my favorite parts, and I was really disappointed the first time we saw it.
Because he wasn't Russian?
Well, I was disappointed he wasn't Russian, or didn't have a Russian accent.
That was my only disappointment.
And the other thing was, I just thought that shot was so amazing of him turning into metal or whatever, and that's the only time we see it. That's the only time Colossus as Colossus is in the film, and that was what was disappointing. Like, I wanted to see more of that.
I bet he was going to probably be more in 3, because Bryan Singer was supposed to do that, and when this movie was being made, he was making plans to do the 3rd one.
Right. Well, I mean, he is in 3, but I don't know. He's not in 3.
Right, not to the degree, like, it probably would have been, in my opinion, because, like, you have that scene where he says to Wolverine, "I can help you," and he's like, "Go." And it was, to me, that was almost like we're setting up the audience to see Colossus. We're not going to give it to you this time.
Right.
And yeah, when he comes out and you just hear the metal sound effects of it, like plating up his skin, like in steps, and they're shooting, and it's just bouncing off.
And then I mean,
I can't really describe
really
how cool.
And Colossus looks interesting. I thought he looked amazing when I first saw the film, and I still think he looks good. But now that Deadpool has come out, and the Colossus in Deadpool, I think, is like pretty much the perfect Colossus. And so you haven't seen that yet, have you?
No.
Yeah, you got to watch that, because the Colossus in that is really good, and he does have the Russian accent in Deadpool.
Nice.
I just watched an animated episode with Colossus where it was it was in the first season. It was the introduction of the Juggernaut, and so the Juggernaut,
the '93 version.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one of my. That was actually, I think that was the first episode of X-Men. Well, it depends. Which episode was it with the Juggernaut?
It's the one where he. I don't know if he destroys the mansion, but.
At the beginning of the episode, is he, like, in the middle of the city, and, like, does he, like, walk on a car? Like, and flattens it, and I think he fights Wolverine?
He does fight Wolverine in the episode, but it's not in the beginning, because basically they're trying to figure out who destroyed the mansion.
Uh-huh.
And they meet Colossus first, and Wolverine thinks that it's Colossus that did it. And then it's only later that they realize that it was Juggernaut, not Colossus. So I don't know if that's the same episode or not.
Yeah, I don't think that one is, but I could be wrong.
Good episode, though. Good series.
Yeah, then that's... If it hadn't been for that cartoon, I wouldn't have...
That's where 95% of my X-Men knowledge comes from, I think.
I'd say that's where, besides, being into Batman as a kid, before X-Men... I think X-Men's what got me interested in the superhero genre.
Yeah.
Just and I give credit to the cartoon.
Yeah, I would, I was a huge Superman fan as a kid, probably even before X-Men, or definitely before X-Men. But I think X-Men might have opened the door, that cartoon might have opened the door to me liking other than Superman and Batman, other superheroes. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, it was like, hey, there's another universe, Marvel.
Right.
Because I didn't know about that, except for Spider-Man, of course.
Spider-Man, yeah.
You just kind of were like, oh, it's the Spider-Man universe.
Right, yeah.
I don't know, though, if I would have watched the cartoon, though, if it hadn't been for some, like, of the trading cards, because that's where I first saw them, was some kids in my class brought some cards, and I think they had some figures too. And that's the same thing that happened with me in Turtles. I hadn't seen the cartoon. Like, a friend of mine brought one to school, and that's where I was like, oh, what's that?
Those trading cards, I was looking on eBay for them recently, and I think the ones I had most were 1992, like the 1992 Marvel trading cards.
Did you have the Marvel Masterpieces?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
My mom bought me the whole set.
Nice.
Yeah, I had it. Well, that anyway.
Well, they're like the set I found was, they range, but they kind of average around $30-$35 for like the whole set for the 1992, 1993 collections. And I was like, that's not terrible. But then I couldn't really bring myself to spend $35 on trading cards. So maybe one day, but
I think it was a Christmas present for me or something, or a birthday present. Nice. And yeah, those Marvel Masterpieces were really cool, and that's where I learned a lot of my characters.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's how I knew who Iron Man was.
Right.
Because I don't think I had an action figure of him.
Yeah, there are some characters. It must have been the trading cards, because there are some characters that I knew of, like Iron Man. I knew who Iron Man was, long before the movies came out and everything. But I never read any Iron Man comics. I don't think I watched the Iron Man TV show. So it must have been those trading cards.
Yeah, well, I saw an episode of the cartoon, but I knew who he was, like, when I was watching the 93 X-Men cartoon.
Right.
Which he was not in that. He was later in Spider-Man, but I don't think I saw
those episodes.
And I remember War Machine. I knew who War Machine was because I was like, oh, there's this silver-looking Iron Man, and his name's War Machine. He's pretty cool. Right. And he stuck with me. So when they showed the suit in the original Iron Man movie, I was like, War Machine! But I'd never read any of the comics or anything.
Right.
I had brought that from from 1993, from my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know much about Iron Man, but I did know who he was, and I knew he was, his like alter ego, if you will, was Tony Stark. And there was like two things I knew about Tony Stark. He had a mustache, and he was an alcohol, or he had a storyline where he was overcoming alcoholism or whatever.
Right.
And that was pretty much all I knew about Iron Man.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I did, I also did back when I was a kid with those trading cards. Every now and again, I would like either a friend had it or I would buy a Wizard magazine. And so
I had a couple of those.
Sometimes it would talk about characters and stuff like that from the comics. So it's possible I learned a little bit through that as well.
Yeah. And some action figures.
Yeah.
But I had so many trading cards. I'm pretty sure I had a card for every one of the action figures I had too.
Yeah.
I probably had like 307 cards.
Nice. I don't think I had nearly that many, but I did have a good amount.
Yeah.
And I had them in a 3-ring binder with all the sleeves and everything.
Yeah, yeah. That wouldn't be including my masterpieces, actually.
Oh, wow.
So, I had a lot of cards. Anyway. So back to X-Men X2.
X2.
which it was around, this was kind of the same thing that the X-Men cartoon to me did, was it was fresh. There wasn't really a superhero cartoon like that. Batman had come out in 92.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of different. And this was at the time where the movies were doing that. So some good talking there about the X-Men cartoon.
I know we probably talked about this in the first X-Men episode, but I feel like this movie in particular is just perfectly cast, I think.
Yeah. Especially when they come back and connecting their performance and them building on what they brought us with the first X-Men, it just confirms how you're invested in the people and the way they're portrayed.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember thinking in the first X-Men when I was a kid that I thought Ian McKellen as Magneto was maybe a little too old to be Magneto, just because in the cartoon he was like, he had white hair and everything, but he seemed like he was very like, buff and just seemed kind of like a younger.
He wasn't as fragile.
But then I realized, you kind of almost have to have an older person play Magneto because he's supposed to be.
When you go back and watch now, like Ian McKellen was kind of young for how you view Ian McKellen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was 13 years ago, and the first movie was 16 years ago, so yeah.
I remember thinking that too when this movie came out, but like going back, I'm like, oh, he's got plenty of life. I wouldn't have felt like, are we going to be able to get 3 movies out of this guy?
But he plays it. He and Patrick Stewart are just such strong actors that he plays it so well that I really almost can't even, other than Michael Fassbender, obviously now, I can't imagine anybody else playing Magneto.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's kind of cool too to go back and look and see Ian McKellen again, and now when I look at Ian McKellen, and I think, does Michael Fassbender fit? Can I connect? If Michael Fassbender were to age, would it be Ian McKellen? And I didn't have any problem doing that. I think it's a pretty good matchup.
Yeah.
And not talking since even though he's not in the movie, Michael Fassbender is a great Magneto also. But yeah, Ian McKellen is the stamp.
Yeah,
I think.
On a similar but different note, and I won't spoil anything because I know you haven't seen it, but in the very, very beginning of X-Men Apocalypse, almost every X-Men movie kind of starts off with like voiceover, if Patrick Stewart is in it, voiceover with Patrick Stewart, and he's usually starts off by going, mutants. Well, James McAvoy does it in the new movie, but I feel like he's doing, and I think he did it really well, almost a Patrick Stewart impression. In that opening voiceover.
If you can nail an impression, I'm all for it. Because
when he just that word when he comes on, like, when the movie started and you hear James McAvoy go mutants, I actually at first I was like, is that Patrick Stewart? Like I actually thought it was him at first.
Nice.
So he actually, I think he did a pretty good job with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. One recent, well, kind of recent thing that reminded me of is Men in Black 3.
Right, yeah.
With
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin doing Tommy Lee Jones. It was insanely good. I was like, I'm glad that he did that because that made. I really liked MI3.
Mm-hmm. MIB3.
MIB3, yeah. And but yeah, and I think that's one of the big reasons that was just that Tommy Lee Jones impression was.
Yeah.
So if you can nail it, it's got to be nailed though.
Yeah. He almost seemed to, and I'll have to see the movie again to kind of pay a little more attention. But it almost seemed to be like he started off doing a pretty heavy Patrick Stewart impression, and then kind of phased it out within that speech, within that voiceover. So it was almost like, I have to give him credit because I feel like it was almost like he was trying to mold his Xavier with Patrick Stewart's Xavier,
right?
Kind
like
of.
He was transitioning into
the younger Xavier. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah,
either that or he just started getting really, really bad at doing it as the
right, and it
continued.
He was like, "Yeah, it's good enough."
He's like, "We're not using this part, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're not using that part. It's okay." He's like, "All right, cool." Then he's watching the screening. He's like, "Ah."
No, you reminded me. Men in Black is actually a comic book movie as well, and that came out in like 90.
Yeah, that's true. But that it's not like superhero.
Right.
Before these movies came out, people didn't know that. I didn't actually know that. I thought the Men in Black comic book came out after the movie.
No, it was a movie. It was a book before the movie. But yeah, it's not like you said. It's not a superhero movie. So it's not really part of the superhero boom
right.
that we're
Who
going
does
through currently.
Men in Black anyway?
I don't remember. Dark Horse, maybe? I don't remember.
It's not Marvel, it's not DC, maybe it's Dark Horse.
Maybe it's Dark Horse. Or, I mean, there's also Image and IDW, but I don't honestly remember if what it was. I don't think it was Image.
We get off topic on this one, but
that's all right.
It is all right. Because this movie it connects everything.
Yeah.
You can when you talk about X2, you can branch off into anything because it's just connected to the whole universe. So let's get back to the meat of X2 in the movie and talk about the story. I feel like the story, it's hard to explain. Like, I always loved it, growing up and everything, but watching it now, I almost feel like it's a little thin.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain why. It's just kind of the feeling I get. It's a good story. It's just, it doesn't really feel like there's that much to it except for what's Wolverine's past. And I liked the way it's also really smart. Like really intelligently written because the element and the aspect of Jason,
Jason Stryker,
his son, if you don't
William
remember his
Stryker's
name,
son, Jason.
He has the ability to kind of it's not on par with Professor Xavier, but is it kind of? I don't even know if it's really the same thing. Can he move objects?
No, but neither can Xavier.
So. Oh, that's right. It's only Jean Grey, isn't it?
Right. I looked up Jason Stryker, and his power is he can. I'm trying to remember how to word it exactly. He can project like illusions into your mind. So basically, he can make you see things.
Right.
But I don't think he can control your mind like Professor Xavier can. All he can do is like project images into your brain.
And that's something that I kind of let pass with earlier viewings, but I was kind of confused as to why Professor Xavier was so easily tricked by Jason's.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that either, and I thought maybe I missed something about Stryker putting. But
he mentions to him that he's not going to use the serum because he's like, you're too powerful for it.
Oh, that's true.
So I'm like, okay, so he's not being drugged or anything. Why is he? He knows Jason is in the room with him, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, there's a little girl. I don't know, maybe Jason has an ability to kind of make him forget things he's seen.
Like where
maybe
he, really
he forgot Jason was there. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe there's a little more to Jason than I realized, and maybe he's can like kind of inhibit part of your brain or something.
I don't know what character he's supposed to be. Was he created for this movie?
I don't think so, but I just don't think there wasn't a. I mean, I only went to Wikipedia, and there wasn't a huge Wikipedia article on him, so I don't know how big he is in the comics.
I mean, I don't mind it. If that's the case, I mean, that's a pretty plausible explanation if you were able to do that. And and then the fact that Stryker was, I thought it was really cool how Stryker was building Cerebro to target all the mutants and kill them.
Uh-huh.
And then I thought it was even more brilliant. Of course, it was a little, I don't know how he was like, okay, let me switch some tiles around and have the perfect code to make it humans, not mutants. But let that slide, and Magneto being able to switch it and turn it on the humans, and Professor Xavier doesn't even know.
Right.
See, that's the thing. Like, why are these whispers of kill all the mutants?
Yeah.
Professor Xavier has to be under some kind of delusion beyond.
Yeah, there's got to be something.
Yeah.
We'll just have to say that Jason has the power to like cast obviously a visual illusion, but he must also have the power to like persuade you to do things. almost like hypnotism, kind of,
right.
or like a movie version of hypnotism, obviously.
Right.
So it's got to be that.
Yeah, I mean, it works that way. And it's kind of cool. So yeah, we'll go with that. So Magneto, turning it, and I liked that. Nice little twist. I didn't really like I don't know why, but the Jean Grey and Cyclops battle kind of annoys me a little bit.
It doesn't. The effects in that scene don't hold up as well,
and that might be why. It never bothered me before, but this time I was kind of like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you there on that one. Some of the Mystique effects are still good, but don't quite hold up as well either. I think they've gotten a little better with those, just in the second trilogy, if you will, First Class through Apocalypse. Right,
and something to bring up about Mystique too, I think that's unfortunately kind of lost now, is when this movie came out, we weren't used to the Mystique character yet.
Right.
Like, we hadn't seen her so many times where when she changed into someone, it was a shock still.
Right.
And you got to...
it's another kind of like Wolverine's rage.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Another thing that we've just seen a bunch now, and we're just
Mystique changed into them. Yeah, cool.
Right.
Nice thinking. But the Garbage Man. That was a big scene when she walks by him and it's him and he sees himself. Like, no one had, like, everyone laughed at that part because
that part was awesome.
Yeah. It just, you'd forgotten it just kind of rubbed in, hey, look what she can do. So that was a cool part of X2.
Something that they don't talk about in this film or in Apocalypse, because Nightcrawler's in Apocalypse as well, is the fact that in the comics, if I'm not mistaken, Nightcrawler is actually Mystique's son.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's something they just kind of decide not to really even just talk about in the films.
No, but I don't think they don't allude to it necessarily. It's not necessarily that they allude to it, but I think they put that scene with them where they have that one
little conversation
trade-off. Yeah. That's kind of a nod. And
a mother-son bonding moment.
Right, because his dad is, what's his name from First Class?
Azazel, yeah.
Uh-huh. So, and Mystique and she kind of goes off with...
Magneto and his crew, yeah.
Yeah, so...
It's possible.
Who knows?
Who knows? It's possible. Let's talk about Pyro, who was an addition to the X-Men, because he was not in the first film, obviously.
Yeah.
Pyro is not a character I'm super familiar with, but I do remember him from the cartoon, and he had what almost looked like flamethrowers kind of attached to his arms or something, so that he could manipulate the fire.
Yeah, he was one of those characters.
He had a really thick, like, Cockney accent.
Yes, correct. And his buddy was Avalanche.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he kind of looked like a gray, smaller Juggernaut.
Yeah.
But I liked that pair. Pyro and Avalanche, those were two villains that I picked up from the cartoon show where I kind of... You didn't see them too much, but I was like, I like those guys.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to have Pyro here, and he's a good guy, because in the cartoon he was bad.
Well, he's on the good guy's side, but he obviously...
Yeah, he changes.
He's, you know...
But he was definitely not like the Pyro from the cartoon.
No, definitely not. But he was... Maybe it's because he was... You know, they're obviously portraying a younger Pyro, so maybe they're trying to... They were trying to probably...
Especially when the movie first came out, you know, I really liked him.
Yeah.
I think his character, watching it now, feels a little bit like... Well, he wasn't really finished, because I think Bryan Singer was going to do more with him in the third one, too.
Yeah, he's in the third movie, too, but not
right.
He doesn't have a big part, really.
Right.
He just kind of stands by Magneto the whole time and doesn't do anything.
Yeah. So... But I also felt like he kind of turned too easily.
Right.
Way too easily, actually. I'm not gonna be soft on it. I think his turn was like... And it was really when the police get called on him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna start blowing up cop cars now." I'm like, "Where did that come from?"
Right. I'm going to defend Pyro's actions a little bit. Not defend them, like saying what he did was right, but like I'm going to defend his churn, if you will.
Okay.
Because he did just see... He doesn't know Wolverine that well, so he might not even really know what Wolverine's powers are. I could be wrong about that. But he sees Wolverine just get shot in the face right in front of him. And so, maybe he's a little upset that, like, he thinks these cops just, like, killed a, quote, innocent mutant. And so decides to take it out on him.
But he didn't seem like... I don't know. I can't defend it anymore.
All right.
He was angry.
Fair enough.
He just... This is what I'm going to do.
But he was also the rebel, John.
He was. Did he have a leather jacket?
Xavier had to
he'd flip his little lighter.
Yeah. And Xavier told him, next time you feel like showing off, don't. So he was a bad
Speaking
kid.
of which, this is the first time I noticed this. Professor Xavier. Speaking of Professor Xavier telling someone not to do something. Early in the movie, he's taking Wolverine into Cerebro, and he's like, I think Wolverine walks in. And he might have called him, I don't remember, but he's got the cigar, and he's like, I have a problem enough with you smoking on campus, Wolverine, but if I have to ask you to put that out here, I don't remember what he said. But
he's like, you'll go the rest of your days thinking you're a little girl.
Oh, that's right.
Like that.
I'll have Jean braid your hair.
Yeah.
And then that cool part where Wolverine puts the cigar out on his hand, that was so awesome.
Yeah.
First time seeing that. So he puts out the cigar, but when they're leaving, Professor says, "Oh, by the way, Scott and I are going out on a little errand tonight. Why don't you stay here and watch the children?" And Wolverine looks at him like, "What?" And then he puts the cigar back in his mouth. So I was like, is he like, all right, I'm lighting this thing up in Cerebro.
Nobody's going to be here. I'm smoking. One thing that I think it's probably common knowledge, but I feel like, Wolverine's mutant power is the power to heal.
Yeah.
But he obviously has a very high tolerance for pain. Because he can do stuff like that. He can put it out in his hand, and obviously he feels it because he makes a face, but he's not like, I feel like that would really hurt.
I'm so glad he made that face because I think he needed to show pain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean. They pulled it back a little bit, but yeah, I'd say that hurt him pretty bad.
Yeah, sure.
I think he's like, I can't put it, like, I'm not gonna play with the professor after a threat like that. Right. I'm not gonna put it out on the side of his walkway over here. He's like, I can regenerate. This is gonna suck, but oh,
sure. But I feel like if it was me, even if I had the power to heal, I'd put it out of my hand and I'd be like, ah! You know what I mean?
You only have to do it like 3 or 4 times. You're like, oh, hold on. Almost out. Oh. Yeah,
it's so hot. It's so hot.
Yeah.
The other thing that here's another question about Wolverine I have watching this film is that scene right before Pyro starts blowing up police cars, and the cops are yelling at Wolverine, put the knives down. And he goes, I can't.
Yeah.
Why does Wolverine, he puts his arms out and he's like, look. And rather than, because we've seen him do it, rather than slowly put the claws away, he goes, and that scares the cop and he shoots him. Like, why does he do it so quickly?
Well, or why didn't he just put them back up in his hand when they said put the knives away?
Yeah. Right. I mean, it was a cool scene because you get to see, Wolverine get shot in the head and then the bullet. I love seeing the little bullet, like, pop out of his forehead and he gets up.
It's insane. It's just like a Terminator moment.
Right, exactly.
You're like, this guy, and it makes you really see how powerful Wolverine is.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is really, really hard to kill.
Mm-hmm.
He can regenerate. Like, I don't know the extent of what he is, but I've heard that he's almost like unkillable.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll die from old age, of course, but
eventually.
You can't go through his bone because it's covered with adamantium.
Adamantium.
and if you burn him, how much can he regenerate? So, but I know it's a lot, and he's really hard to kill. So, and that was the first moment you really got to see that. A bullet did not go through this guy's head, and he just stood up.
Yeah, like I said, it's a cool scene, but this watching it this time, I was like, why did he do that? It was just a question. I mean, I know why the movie made it happen that way, because they wanted him to get shot. But I feel like he should have just put the claws away slowly.
Yeah. Yeah,
so the police could process that information.
And then Pyro wouldn't have started throwing fireballs everywhere.
Right. So really, it's all Wolverine's fault.
It is. Irresponsibility.
That's right. He wants to be, can you believe Xavier left him in charge of these people?
Professor, what'd they call him? Is it Professor Logan?
Yeah,
no, what was his? Was it Professor Logan, or did they give him a nickname?
No, I think they called him Professor Logan.
I liked how art
what
was
are you
his
a professor
major.
of?
Yeah.
Art.
Cyclops, I felt was not used near as much as I would have liked him to, because I liked James Marsden.
I like James Marsden too, and you're absolutely right. Watching it this time around, it's not something I really thought about before, but this time around, he really is underused, I think.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't really have a whole lot to do in this film. He has even less to do in the next film. But
spoiler alert.
But yeah, there was a lack of Cyclops that was kind of a bummer.
There's a lot more to talk about this movie. Stryker, Brian Cox, great job.
Excellent job.
Yeah. I never really understood his statement about how he's like, you haven't changed a bit, Wolverine. As for me, nature.
I think he was saying that, he looks, has it been like 15 or 16 years since?
Yeah, you're right. He ages.
I think he was just saying he's aged.
Yeah, I gotcha.
He doesn't look the same as he did when they were doing the Weapon X program.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, is there some kind of like mutant thing he's talking about? I was like, Stryker's not a mutant, at least I'm pretty sure. And of course, he gets taken care of. There's no, unless he was a mutant, but he's not.
Right.
But
I'm pretty sure that was the end of Stryker.
Yeah, I think he's gone. I liked the play with Senator Kelly, bringing him back with Mystique, and that was kind of cool because you at the end of X-Men, Senator Kelly's dead. You do see the last shot is Mystique. So yeah, next time you see Senator Kelly, people that really remember that ending are like,
right,
that's Mystique.
They remind you because they do the eye thing after
at the end, yeah. But that whole scene actually, is done without that knowledge. If you don't remember that,
right?
I don't remember what my reaction was. I don't remember if I was like, oh, Senator Kelly again. He hates mutants, and then why is he defending them? Or if I was like, oh, Mystique was him. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure I remembered it was Mystique.
I probably rewatched X-Men.
Yeah.
Before going to go see this, so.
Let's talk real quick about Halle Berry as Storm.
Okay.
One of the things that has always kind of bugged me is that she has an accent in the first film, and that accent disappears in this film. She doesn't have her...
Does she have an accent in the first film?
Yeah, she does, yeah.
I don't remember that. Of course, she doesn't really say much in the
she
first
doesn't.
film. Or this
and
one.
They obviously gave her a little bit bigger of a part, and I like her in this movie. Don't get me wrong, but it always kind of bothered me that they just, for whatever reason, decided to get rid of the accent. But
to me, Storm always... I liked her character, like, from the universe, but in the movies, I felt like I kind of always overlooked her. I never really felt... Like, I never really remembered she was in the movie, except for, like, oh, well, she causes the rainstorm here.
Right. Well, that's all they ever do with her, really.
Right, and the tornadoes. Storm's like, I'm killing these pilots. They're done for. I'm going to create the world's biggest storm, thousands of tornadoes everywhere.
Yeah.
What was
I was going to say, that is, usually it's like all they do with Storm is she provides like fog or rain.
Yeah.
But the tornado scene was pretty sweet. I like that scene. So they did use her at least in that way. But Storm was never really my favorite character. Just because controlling the weather just never really seemed like that great of a power, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I always liked her, like in the cartoon, because she seemed kind of like a wise figure.
Yeah, that's true.
Someone you go to for advice. But it didn't really feel like that with this. This Storm didn't really have that characteristic. They tried to give her
film, where she's like angry and everything,
right? And they tried to give her that scene with Nightcrawler, but it's not really a scene that I ever remember. And I'm like, that's not part of the movie. Like, I don't remember that.
Right.
So anyway, Nightcrawler we talked a little bit about. He's great.
Alan Cumming is perfect.
Yep. I don't know if I would have done I guess it's fine for the movie, and you want to give him some weird feature, but the, like, carvings in his skin.
Yeah.
I never was really quite sure how I felt about that.
I was not a huge fan of it when I first saw it. It's kind of grown on me now. I don't mind it, but yeah, I was in the same boat when I first saw the movie.
Yeah.
Just because in the comics and the cartoon and everything, he just had what seemed just kind of, like blue, smooth skin. And so when all of a sudden he's got like these kind of markings, like you said, on like that he did to himself apparently in the movie.
Right.
It just seemed it was a little weird, but I can appreciate it now.
Sure.
Let's talk about Lady Deathstrike.
Okay.
I like Lady Deathstrike in the film. She doesn't say much or anything, if I recall.
I don't think she says anything.
Yeah, I don't think she does either. But she's a cool foe for Wolverine.
Yeah.
I looked up Lady Deathstrike as well, and in the comics, her father is the guy who created the adamantium bonding process. So he's not necessarily the guy that like
Wolverine dated her too, didn't he?
Possibly. I didn't read anything about that.
I think they did, and I was actually was thinking that she was the girl. It was when he went over to Japan,
right?
And I was actually thinking that the girl that in the movie The Wolverine, that might be Lady Deathstrike. I'm not sure about that though.
I'll have to look at the names because her Lady Deathstrike's name did sound familiar when I was reading about her. But anyway, she's got an adamantium skeleton as well, like Wolverine, and she obviously has the like fingernail claws, which I thought was pretty. I don't know how those retract exactly into her fingers, but
yeah, actually, now that I have the comic book version of her visually in my mind, and I know now that she and Wolverine were an item.
Cool.
Yeah. Because she had like metal hair, like adamantium hair.
Oh wow! Yeah, that sounds familiar.
But yeah, it was. I remember I didn't know that was her in the movie until she extends her nails.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's Lady Deathstrike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might have been the same for me. I don't know if I realized that was who it was either until that happened.
Yeah.
Because her costume obviously looks nothing like her costume.
Right.
Comic book costume.
Right.
So, yeah, could be the same thing for me. But that fight scene, I really like that fight scene between Wolverine and Lady Deathstrike.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to watch. I forget when she does that, like, tracheotomy.
Yeah.
That looks painful. And then just the jabbing and,
Wolverine definitely looks like he's in some pain in that fight scene.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he can put a cigar out on his hand,
right,
this still would hurt this fighting.
Yeah.
Jean Grey dying at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
Just kidding. I remember being super excited about that when I saw it in the theater. I'm not excited about her dying, but the last shot of the film, like, thank God they killed Jean Grey.
Nightcrawler's like, she's not letting me get her, and you're like, oh yes, I did not want to see her in the next movie.
That's exactly right. No, I remember the very last shot of the film where they tease Phoenix. That's what I was getting excited about.
Yep. Yeah, I remember seeing that, and I don't remember how, like, It seemed like I was wondering if that was going to happen, but I don't know why I would have been thinking about Phoenix, because it was kind of a different scenario than Phoenix. But then again, Jean Grey dies, and so in the comics, so you kind of like, when she dies, I guess you automatically think about it. And then, to see I remember when I saw the first time in the theater and you saw the symbol, like, I was like, oh, is that Phoenix?
Yeah.
And then but then it was over, and like we were walking out, and I was like, did my mind just play a trick on me? That was there, right?
Yeah.
But now when you watch it, it's like really obvious.
Yeah. It did seem really faint though the first time you saw it.
Yeah, I wonder if they brightened it up for like the DVD or something.
Yeah, maybe. I do have a question about one of the final scenes. So the president is giving a speech on live television to the nation, and then Xavier freezes everyone, basically. Kind of like how he did in the museum.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions, actually, about this scene. Number one, I was watching it this time, I was trying to figure out if they were actually there in the White House, or if he was projecting the image of them in the White House. But I think he's actually there because it gives them the file. He gives the president the file, and the president has the file when they come
absolutely.
back.
And plus, Nightcrawler's like leaning against the wall.
Right, so I'm guessing Nightcrawler teleported all of them into the room, but he has to like touch them all in order to do that, or at least everybody has to like hold hands or something. So we just don't see that happening.
That must have taken him like at least a minute.
Right.
He's like, all right, hold on.
And
Professor,
you
you're first.
You don't hear the band or anything.
Storm, you're right here.
All right, everybody gather around.
Okay, I got 4 more to get. Hold on.
Is everybody holding hands?
Professor. Just
everybody holding
frozen.
Hands? So, and you don't, like I said, you don't hear the bamf. So I'm just assuming they teleported into the White House. But here's the other question. Xavier, in order to reach out to the minds of the world, he needs Cerebro. And so, did he freeze only the people in the White House? And everybody, like, at home watching the president is seeing the president, like, talk to these people off screen? Or did he freeze the minds of everybody in the
speech.
nation?
They hear the whole speech from Professor Xavier.
Right.
His whole like little, his whole deal.
And everybody's like, what's going on? This is not a threat.
My favorite is that guy's face with a pen in his mouth.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw that, like, everyone just started cracking up.
Yeah.
Little did we know it was a serious scene.
That's right. But yeah, I like that scene, but those are my questions this time around. I was like, wait.
I love their reaction too when he unfreezes them, and then they're like, Mr. President? And then the guy like looks at the teleprompter.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Yeah. And we have no idea what he says. They just leave us hanging.
Yeah.
Like, but anyway.
He probably was like, there were some mutants in here, we gotta kill them.
He's like, get me Stryker. Stryker's dead.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. Stryker's dead? We cannot get you, Mr. Stryker.
Mutants killed him.
President's like, well, this just keeps getting better and better.
I think that's about all I have to say on X-Men. I mean, we could go on a lot longer, but I think we hit the meat of what X2 was, and it was a super important movie. I think it holds up really well, but kind of like what I mentioned, maybe lost some of its shine from newer versions of things.
Yeah.
But still a great movie.
Yeah, I still love it a lot. It's still, I think, my favorite out of the X-Men movies.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring this up. My favorite, I haven't seen Apocalypse yet, so, and I don't include the Wolverine movies. I kind of consider those branch-off movies.
Okay. So you're just going off the 6 movies, the first trilogy and I guess for you, 5 movies.
Right.
Since you haven't seen Apocalypse.
So lowest to highest, X-Men Last Stand.
Yeah.
X2. No, I'm kidding. First Class. X-Men. The original.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of like, do I like... Days of Future Past and X2 are really close for me.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't talked about Days of Future Past, so...
No, we haven't.
Say.
That's all right.
I'll just say I really like X2.
Yeah. I mean, talking about ranking, my if you're only including those 5 movies, that's exactly how I would rank them. I would put X2 above Days of Future Past, but Days of Future Past is a close second.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first X-Men, and then First Class, and then Last Stand.
So anyway, do you have anything else you want to talk about with X2?
I don't think so. I think we covered pretty much everything. I was going to say, and I'm not entirely sure how true this statement is, but John Ottman's score for the X-Men franchise, because he didn't score the first movie. Michael Kamen scored the first movie. And I think John Ottman is the one that kind of added the X-Men theme, if you will. And I really like it a lot. And he... I don't know if they used it in X-Men 3. I can't remember. And they didn't use it in X-Men First Class. So hearing it again in X-Men Days of Future Past was actually pretty cool. And then they played it again, obviously, in Apocalypse. And so I really like that music. And so I just kind of wanted to put that out there. But I'm almost positive that theme is not in the first film. But I'd have to rewatch it to be sure. It's
not a bad theme, but I don't hold it as high as some others. When I hear it, I recognize it, but I like in next week, I would never be able to hum it for you.
I gotcha.
Yeah. I think I got, I'm very particular about my X-Men theme with the cartoon.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know. It's like I said, it's not a bad theme. It's not a bad theme. It's just, it's hard for me to recall it a lot of the time.
Sure. And that's, it's kind of a fine line that composers have to walk, because you don't want to be so in your face, I guess you could say, that like all you're thinking about is the music. You want the music to complement the film.
Right.
But at the same time,
unfortunately,
it's nice to be
this came
memorable.
out, this theme was written around the same time as Spider-Man's theme.
Right.
And Danny Elfman's Spider-Man theme is just insane. So it also had that kind of going against it.
Right.
Danny Elfman, I consider Danny Elfman's Spider-Man theme to be like one of the best things in movie music ever.
Wow. Very nice. Yeah. I like it, that's for sure. It's hard to beat John Williams with a lot of his stuff. But
well, yeah, absolutely. John Williams it's insane. Insanely good.
All right. Well, what would you rate X2, X-Men United? Which, by the way, I forgot about this right here. Was there were previews, I want to say, for this movie, and I think it might have been called X2 and just X2. And actually, in the beginning of the movie, after Xavier has his little voiceover speech, it just says X2 on the screen. X-Men United is not part of the title in the film.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure...
I actually usually forget that that's even part of it.
Yeah, I don't like it. And I remember seeing it for the first time. Like, the first couple of trailers didn't have it, and then there was like a TV spot, and it was like X2, X-Men United. And I remember being like, what? Like, why is that there? And so I don't really like referring to the movie as X2, X-Men United, but that is technically the title. It's on the DVD case.
I honestly wish it had just been called X-Men 2.
I know, me too.
But
even over X2, I would have rather it just been X-Men 2.
Yeah. Or X-Men, the sequel. Not really.
X-Men Part 2. Like The Godfather.
So what would I rate it? I originally would have given it 5 out of 5 stars. Yeah. I think I'm going to put it down to a 4. 4 out of 5.
All right. Yeah, I think before we rewatched it, I probably would have given it like an A+ or something, but I'm going to give it an A because I think it is really good still, and I think it is still at the top of my...
Right.
It's definitely at the top of my X-Men list, and it's probably still up there at the top of my comic book movie list. At least maybe in the top... It's definitely in the top 10, probably in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this a lot lately, but if I could do half stars, I would actually give this like 4.5.
Yeah.
I would lean that way, but since I can only pick between the 5 and the 4, I've got to lean more with the. This
4.
is not a 5-star movie anymore.
Right.
It's an amazing movie, but with stuff that has been built on since, it gets kind of shoveled a little bit under the ground, and you can kind of see a little bit more of the wear and tear on it. Still an amazing movie. Amazing movie. It's still one of my favorite superhero movies. I'll definitely say that.
Mm-hmm.
Give it some extra credit there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. Same here. Well, we'd love to know what you think about X2. You can let us know. You can comment on our website, www.cinemaheroes.com, or you can go to facebook.com/SM and SM podcast, or you can tweet us on Twitter, obviously. @CinemaHeroes is our Twitter handle. We'd love to hear from you. And I think that about wraps it up for this episode. My name is Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading.